Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? It's your favorite person. Yes, I took off last week because I was celebrating Easter with my family back in Cincinnati. So I'm back better than ever. Now on a Thursday. How interesting, right? Beautiful spring day out here in Boston. Yep, it's hail and snow. So that's April, right? So yeah, I'd like to be anywhere else outside of Boston at this point in time. But if you guys want to check out some good footage of what's actually going on in Boston, Charlie Likes Water, awesome guy on Instagram, has a lot of great content if you like fishing things, but also just like weather related items. Love him to death. Great guy. So anyhow, we're gonna get into it, right? But we do know it's April 4th, and April 4th means it is. Ooh, this is a big one, guys. National Burrito Day. Oh gosh, how do I do this? National Burrito Day and International Care Day, a twofer, you might say. So yeah, maybe I'll hit up Chipotle, or actually in Cambridge area, there's a place called Felipe's, best burrito in Boston. Now, we're not talking about burritos today, right? We're talking about our top 5 news stories, and the top 5 news stories are a lot of things about loans in the commercial real estate environment. What are you going to do with all those Powerball winnings? Because it's the Powerball has really grown. Then we're going to talk about student loans and how we might be saying goodbye to them, but what does that mean? And the final part, we're going to close in on affordable housing. That's a very hot trend, and it's a place that a lot of people can do good in real estate while serving their community. Now, the first thing we're going to do, though, like always, let's do our LinkedIn poll. So we are in April, the first week of April, in fact, which means we are in Q2 of 2024. And a lot of people know that we like setting New Year's resolutions. I, in fact, have talked about mine a number of times of reaching out to people on LinkedIn and actually having a real conversation with them. Well, the question I posed on LinkedIn, and as you can see right here, is how many of you have actually stuck with your goals in 2024? And how many goals did you create? Are you sticking with all of them? Are you on some of them or none of them? Just let me know. I'm very curious to see where people are at this stage of Q2 in 2024. Now, a quick look at the markets. Now, this is a few days old because keep in mind this is coordinated with my newsletter that you can subscribe to on LinkedIn, or we have an email database as well. And we have a couple, gosh, I think it's 10,000, 12,000 people that are now readers of that. So please jump on in, read as much as you want. We try to cover real estate and money and make it entertaining for you. So, what are the markets looking like right now? Well, as you can see, there's a lot of green, which is a good thing. The only thing that's red, 30-year mortgages. Still not coming down to where they were originally. We do believe, again, based on what the market has said, is that we're going to expect 3 rate cuts in this next year. But who knows? Nobody can predict the future, right? Would really like to be in Bitcoin right now, but hey, instead I'm in real estate and in other areas. To each their own on the risk levels that they like to take. So there we are in the markets. Let's start talking about our first story. And our first story is how large will the losses be in the commercial real estate? And so here's kind of a graph that you can see. And again, if you're on Instagram, you're not seeing this, but if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever it is called now, you can see that the amount of debt outstanding in the billions is a lot. It's 1.76 trillion. And when you spread that across all the sectors like banking and thrift, agency and GSE, life insurance companies, commercial backed mortgage securities, you name it, there's a lot of debt out there. And a lot of people are saying this could be the apocalypse, right? But not really. Because what Morningstar really found in their analysis that I provided in this newsletter was that there's going to be small and medium drags to earnings on several of the banks out there. But when we really break down the 4 sectors of commercial real estate, well, industrial's fundamentals are great, and there's strong demand and low vacancy rates. So they don't anticipate any real distress there. And then you got retail. Well, not as strong as industrial, is still in pretty good shape. You don't see a demand drop and any supply issues there as well. Multifamily, candidly, that's where I like to play, multifamily. There's concerns there, particularly in the southeast, where you're starting to see an oversupply of new apartments coming online. So definitely be wary of making sure there isn't too much supply than demand available, because then you're going to get properties that are renting for a lot less, along with the higher interest rates. That could create a squeeze on your debt service coverage ratio. But the biggest pain, and this is what is creating the biggest issue for banks out there, office. And there's been all these talks of trying to convert office to multifamily. Yeah, maybe 20 to 30% of offices can actually effectively be converted to multifamily, but a lot of them can't. There's just so much structurally changes that you need to make in order to have that be successful. So there's a lot of expectations that there's going to be a lot more pain before it gets better, especially in the office space. But if you're in their other sectors, especially in the retail industrial piece, you should be smooth sailing. So that was the first piece. I'd love to understand, where are you invested if you're in the real estate market? Where do you like playing? Or do you like just playing in the single family areas, fix and flips? Tell me. I'm very curious. All right. Now, another thing talking about loans, because we just covered there's a lot of potential loan challenges for commercial real estate. Well, Eric Sherman, love this guy. He has a lot of great articles out there, so I really suggest you follow him. But he was talking about how CRE lenders, commercial real estate lenders, like to take this approach of pretend and extend. And what does that mean? It really just means trying to extend out those on-paper losses so that they do not actually become physical losses for you. And that is a way for them to kind of push the ball down the road, more or less, of avoiding those significant and final decisions. Yeah, a lot of groups are trying to do that. And that is potentially the way, because a lot of people see, well, if we can get to 2025, then we might be in better position. But of the 162 billion in securitized commercial mortgages that matured in 2023, 542 loans, or roughly about $20 billion, was actually modified. So that's a low amount. But as a comparison, that is 150% higher than what occurred in 2022. So again, 20 billion out of 162, that's only 1/8. That's like 12.5% more or less. And that is a big change of 150% from the prior year. So this is not the norm, and property managers and owners are trying their best to work with these lenders to try and find an agreeable term, because guess what? Banks aren't in the business of owning property. They're in the business of doing loans. So there's got to be a happy medium out there, and I'm really, really hoping that people will find a way in the end, because nobody wants to suffer here. And if your property gets foreclosed on, the tenants get hurt. The people that work there get hurt. You got to find a way that everybody can win. And everybody just has to understand that expectations cannot be as high as what they originally were, because this has been a vastly different market that anybody has really experienced in the last, since 2008. Okay, let's move on to something maybe a little bit more exciting, the Powerball, because we all know I'm going to win. And if I'm not going to win, I think you're going to win, right? That's how we always think when we go gambling. But the Powerball, again, is over $1 billion, which doesn't happen all too frequently, which that's why I'm talking about it now here today. And yeah, I'll admit it. I'm going to get some Powerball numbers. And no, I don't have a shot in hell of actually winning, but it just makes it kind of entertaining. And so the Powerball, if you win the Powerball, which you aren't because I'm going to, but there's two payout options for a lucky winner. And the first one is you just take the lump sum. And roughly speaking, that lump sum would be just shy of $500 million. And if you don't want to take the lump sum, then the other option is that you can actually take an annuity worth the $1 billion that it's worth. And both those are pre-tax estimates. So there's a pros and cons on both of it. And I'm very curious what most people would want to do, whether they just take the lump sum or if they would just go with the annuity over, I think it's 20 or 30 years. The pros on the lump sum option, of course, is that a dollar today is worth a lot more than a dollar tomorrow, especially with how inflation has been over the past couple of years. And there's always that belief of opportunity costs for people. If I have this money now, I could make another investment that could double my money and another investment that could double my money, versus if I just keep on taking annuities, well, I'm having a more consistent flow of income, but I may not be able to maximize the potential amount of money that I have. Again, you already have $500,000 or $500 million, so that probably may not be a concern, but for some people, it's all about continuing to get leverage. The pros on the annuity, it puts guardrails in place. A lot of us, we're not taught personal finance in school. So we have to learn that on our own or from other people out there. And so the real concern for the majority of Americans is that they're just going to go out there and they're just going to waste it on something. Let's go buy a plane for myself and my friends. Let's go buy unnecessary amount of houses, cars, spend extravagantly. Next thing you know, you've spent everything. So that's why the annuity is actually good, because it actually helps people minimize their ability to mismanage money, which sadly is a fact of life for the majority of people. So which option would you choose? I'm very curious. I'd love to know. All right. The fourth story, student loans. A lot of us went to college. Do we regret it? I don't know. Up to you. A lot of people do believe that, um, college was worthwhile, and I believe that too. I mean, hell, I even did my MBA, so I really doubled down in that. But the too long didn't read version, the TLDR, if I'm talking millennial and Gen Z language right now, is that college is expensive, and with less companies actually requiring college degrees to be hired, it might beg the question of, is it even worth it? And to help ease the financial pains for many middle income families, there are roughly 24 colleges now on there. And my article has a list of who that actually is, where they have these no loan policies. What that really means is that they're going to meet 100% of an undergraduate's need for financial aid with grants rather than loans. Because remember, those loans are absolutely miserable. John Oliver has a great 30-minute skit talking about how bad student loans really are, where it shows a poor woman. She was paying like $750 a month for her student loans. Only $65 was actually going towards the principal. The rest of it was going against the interest. And it was never paying down. She was just maintaining. Like, that's sad. And so it is, unless there's going to be more programs like this coming online, that question really is college worth it? Because you don't want to put yourself in debt that you can't get out of, regardless of whatever job you end up getting. So that's student loans. Let's move on to our final story, which is always talking about affordable housing. I love affordable housing. And why do I love it? Because you can actually create a meaningful impact in the community for people that are less fortunate. And guess what? You actually make money as a real estate investor too. Isn't that great when you can actually serve yourself by serving others first? So anyhow, affordable housing, I've been talking about it a lot. I'm actually candidly working on one right now. And there's some new things going on in affordable housing. And the new regulations under the Biden administration is saying that there's going to be a cap on annual rent increases at 10% in properties that are funded by LIHTC, which is low-income housing tax credits. And there's more than 1 million homes in the U.S. that are LIHTC financed. So that's not a small number. And realistically, what this is saying is affordability is important. We need to continue to make it affordable for people as they stay at those units. So I don't actually disagree with the 10% cap, because realistically, so long as inflation is staying in place, you're going to be okay on a 10% increase at a max. But anyhow, I'm excited at least that affordability and affordable housing in general is staying on the radar for a lot of Americans, and how we can better serve the American people. All right, so that is our top 5 news stories. We're going to move on to, of course, the favorite parts, which are the social media posts that I found most interesting this past week. I tend to just float around on LinkedIn, but sometimes I go to Instagram just for entertainment purposes, even though I suck on Instagram, but who cares? And again, if you're on Instagram, you're not even actually seeing the visual that I have going on the horizontal formats on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X or Twitter. But anyhow, my friend Michael Elefante, also an Airbnb guy, like short-term rentals, real estate guy. And up on the screen, you're able to see what he has been talking about of, we have been sold this ideology of how to make proper income. And that is the belief of, you go get a job, get a steady paycheck with benefits, and you just keep saving your money, and you keep saving your money, and you save your money, and then reinvest that as well. But you can't save your way to wealth. Like, the way you actually make money is by focusing on earning more so that you can invest more. And there's a lot of recommendations around it. I personally like real estate. I like owning businesses. I like trying to create innovative concepts that can serve people at no cost to them, where I just so happen to get paid as well. So there's plenty of ways out there. If you have an idea and you're an entrepreneur, come talk to me about it. I'd love to bounce ideas around. Or if you have something where you just want another second set of eyes, hey, I'm happy to be here. I've kicked around a lot of ideas with a lot of great people that used to be at Nike or P&G or Berkshire Hathaway or whatever it might be. So just know I'm here to help if you ever want to talk about that. But that is how you actually create wealth. It's not by staying in a 9-to-5, unless, of course, you're one of those lucky people that gets to the executive level, in which you're getting all these executive bonus plans, all this stock and stock options and comp. Okay, then I will, I'll shut up. But for the majority of us, 99% will never make it to that executive level, in which point you're better served to try and have faith in yourself and go out and do things on your own. So that's the first social post that I found rather interesting. The second social post that I found was, what is the 1%? And there's actually a graph that I provided, and for people, again, on Instagram that will never see this, The 1% really ranges in the United States. They broke it down by age ranges. Let's just say you're somebody in the 35 to 39-year-old range. If you want to be in the top 10%, you're earning $230,000 a year. If you want to be in the top 5%, $370,000 a year. But if you want to be in the top 1%, you're earning just north of $1 million a year. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to, shoot to be the 1%, understand that there is a significant jump from 5% at $370,000 up to $1 million. So what are you doing to try and close that gap if that is your idealistic goal to be in that 1%? Again, if you want to see the actual graph, it's in my weekly newsletter. It's also there on LinkedIn. So always available for people. Just check it out. But that's my 1% post. And then the final thing, again, since I'm in the real estate market, I thought this is relevant to share. But if anybody has read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, absolutely love that book. It's what got me started to be much more entrepreneurial, where he informed me of a house that you own, a single family home, is a liability, not an asset. And a lot of people confuse that. Well, renting, this should hopefully help a lot of Americans actually get away from that ideology, because renting is now cheaper than owning in all of America's 50 biggest metro areas. Again, renting is now cheaper than owning in all of America's 50, yes, Robert Kiyosaki, my man Artie, biggest metro areas. So yes, if you are a renter out there, don't be upset. I would actually encourage renting. Unless you get to a stage where we were just talking about on like a 10% wealthiest Americans, 5%, 1%, no longer make that the American dream. Make that your personal dream if you actually really want that. But yeah, it's not actually a good idea to buy unless you are in a really good financial place where you're not concerned about the liability that you're about to take on. All right, so that closes out our top 3 social posts. I'm going to get into our final thing, which is, do you have hope? And for people, again, that are looking at this on the horizontal format, you might see Obama. And that is what he ran his campaign on, was hope. And it was really successful. It got a lot of Americans to buy in. That's why he was a 2-term president. And last week, for a lot of Christians around the world, and I am a Christian, so I will talk about it, we celebrated Easter. And Easter is really a time of the year where it's a renewal. And there's a lot of lessons that we can learn around it. Now, I'm not going to get overly faith-based on it, because I respect people and their religious beliefs. But what I can tell you is there's 4 life lessons that Easter can teach us. The first is hope and renewal. And Easter teaches us that even in like the darkest of times, which, hey, there's some dark times out there. The market is really tough. There's hope for renewal and transformation. And the resurrection of Jesus symbolizes the triumph of life over death, light over darkness, and hope over despair. It reminds us that no matter how bleak, and actually, I like this one. I'm going to steal it from a former Converse employee. It's like, the future always looks bleak until we get there. So that's what hope and renewal is all about. Then there's forgiveness and redemption. Well, we kind of know the story of Jesus there, and the power of forgiveness and redemption. I mean, he willingly sacrificed himself. He was nailed to a cross, and it served as a powerful example of unconditional love and compassion. So that should hopefully teach us if he can forgive people for doing that, yeah, maybe we can reconcile some of the relationships and disagreements that we might have had with others with grace and humility. The third part, faith and perseverance. Easter underscores the significance of significance of faith and perseverance in the face of adversity, like getting nailed to the cross, despite facing betrayal, persecution, and death. So that's another part of, like, stay steadfast on your journey. You're going to hit a lot of roadblocks along the way, but, try not to get upset by that. You will be able to overcome it. It will make you mentally stronger, because life is all about trials and tribulations. And the fourth lesson that I got from Easter was that it's about love and selflessness. Jesus sacrificed himself for us. That's pretty much as much love as you can get. And a lot of parents would probably sacrifice themselves for their kids. So I don't think anybody would disagree with that either. So just remember that that's a good model to follow. Be kind, have empathy, prioritize the well-being of others over ourselves, and extend grace and mercy to those in need. Because you never know what's actually going inside their head. Don't approach them with hate. Approach them with love. Try and figure out a way to find an agreement instead of a disagreement. Disagreeing gets us nowhere in life. It just creates unnecessary stress and strain. So anyhow, those were the 4 major lessons. But the big one that I wanted to hit on, and again, Barack Obama and his political team crushed this when they won their first election in the United States. Hope. Hope is so vital for several reasons. First, resilience. That gives us strength to persevere throughout all of adversity. We believe in the possibility of making positive outcomes. We are moving forward. We're going to bounce back from our setbacks. We're going to overcome obstacles. That's what resilience is all about. Mental and emotional well-being. That's another association with hope, because hope provides a sense of optimism. If you are dreading the future and you are fearful of the future, you are in a negative mindset. This hope gives us a positive framework to work from, and that gives us the energy to get through the day. Speaking to that, the energy to get through the day is tied to motivation, because you're given that energy and you are going to continue to keep plowing ahead because there are going to be obstacles. And so that's what the hope will do. Hope will also give you a sense of purpose. It gives you kind of a direction in life. You found your why. They always say, hey, I need to find my why, because when I find my why, I can actually do something about it. That's what hope does. That's what sense of purpose is. It's leading to greater satisfaction and fulfillment in whatever you're doing, because we are all called to do something differently. So you're going to find your why, and that's going to give you a sense of purpose and hope. It's going to help you improve relationships, because when you're not trying to be something else, but you're actually being yourself, that's going to improve your relationship. And hope fosters that deeper connection and stronger relationship with others. It's actually, and believe this, the 6th and final thing about hope, health benefits. Yes, health benefits. Research has actually shown that being hopeful tends to show better physical outcomes for you. Just being hopeful gives you better physical outcomes, including lower rates of chronic disease, faster recovery from illness or injury, and increased longevity. So yes, be a glass half full type of guy or woman. Don't be a glass half empty. Taking that approach gives you a fixed mindset, a negative mindset. That's not going to help you live a healthier, happier life. So that's my talk of hope. Hopefully you guys got something out of that, no pun intended. Now, as we close out, I know the thing that everybody wants to know, of course, because they just listened to me blabber on for an endless amount of time, is what are the 3 dad jokes of this week? So here they are. And this is in honor of March Madness, which wraps up this weekend in the men's and women's side. I'm going to be watching Caitlin Clark because she is an absolute beast. I do hope Iowa wins. So here we go. March Madness jokes. What do you call it when Cinderella busts your bracket? Like NC State. March Sadness. Oh, where's my little... I can't. Whatever. How many 5-star recruits does it take to screw in a light bulb? Only one, but he gets money, a car, and 3 credit hours for it. I love college athletes these days, right? NIL money. What does a basketball player do when he loses his eyesight? He becomes a referee. All right, everyone, that was so much fun. Thank you for joining me, or if you watch the recorded version, feel free to reach out to me whenever you want. I'm here to help. This is Dan signing off. Take care of yourself.